All right, Alexis, what is it you want to learn about today?
Well, the other day when we went to eat, the food cost, it was more expensive than it usually is, and I know, inflation's been going on, but what exactly is inflation?
Okay.
How does it work?
All right, so inflation is a couple different things. So, in general, inflation is the rise. Turn on for me. There we go. Rise in the prices that you pay. So this is like a price tag.
You could have just drawn a money sign.
Well, but see, there's something different I'm fixing to explain. So the prices go up. That means the value of your money is going down in general.
Oh.
So that's what inflation is. It's when prices are going up. And lots of inflation is a very bad thing because of this, right? Because if you feel like the value of your money is going down, you feel poorer. If the paycheck that you get every month buys you less things, you are, just feel poorer. You are poorer. So, here, let me give you an example. So, the order that we get from McDonald's, like if we go get, the McDonald's is yellow. So, the order that we get from McDonald's, like whenever I go during the weekend.
Bro.
It's so hard on me. There we go.
So mean.
Yeah.
There we go.
Golden arches. So on the weekends, whenever I go feed pigs and sometimes I go get McDonald's breakfast, that stop.
Technology.
Yeah, well, we're out of practice. I haven't done this in a while.
Or you're just old.
Yes, both, probably. A little bit of both. All right, so let's try this again. So maybe I need to poke up here. How do I close your window? Daft thing. Anyway, so I go to McDonald's, and it'll be green McDonald's. Our usual breakfast order plus a large sweet tea for me cost exactly $20 a year ago.
Nice.
And that's one of the reasons I used to go ahead and get a sweet tea. One, I like having a sweet tea. And two, it was exactly $20. And it was just kind of...
This is fine.
I thought it was interesting. So the last time I went and got it, just like a week or so ago, cost $22. And some change. Like it wasn't an exact amount. So that means it had increased how much?
$2.
What percent?
What percent?
Yeah.
I don't know the exact percent. Not a lot, though.
10%.
That's 10%? Well, that's not a lot, considering.
Well, it's a whole lot.
Well, it's a lot, but at least it didn't increase, 100%.
Yeah, well, it did not double to $40 for McDonald's breakfast and a large sweet tea. No, you're correct, but that's a lot.
It is?
Yes, anything above 2% is considered a lot.
Oh, then that is a lot.
Yes. So that's what it is. This is general increase in prices. People don't like it because they're essentially taking a pay cut.
That is annoying.
So, based on our McDonald's example, if your mother and I both didn't get 10% pay increases, spoiler alert, we did not receive 10% pay increases over the past year. We essentially took a pay cut, right? Our money, we got the same amount of money, but our money is worth less. It would be the same as if the prices stayed the same and they just said, you know what, we're going to pay you 10% less. So it
That
sucks.
sucks.
So why does it happen? We're going to talk about three things. So one, you've probably heard of this supply and demand thing.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we talked about that in the bank run video.
Probably did. So we're going to talk about some other stuff that's applicable to that video too. 2 is we're going to talk about this triangle. And the triangle is similar to supply and demand, but they supply, cost, and then they have different names, but it's basically psychology.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah. This version is popular with economists who follow this guy named Keynes, John Maynard Keynes. And so his sort of branch is Keynesian. I think I spelled that right.
What?
Yeah. Of economics.
Oh.
Not necessarily, like, I wouldn't say he has a lot of really good ideas, but this particular model isn't terrible.
Government is hard.
Yeah, well, anyway. The third one is, it's basically a theory based on money, and the people who follow this are called monaterist.
Monaterist?
Yeah. It's basically money. So, this is how there's sort of the 3 ways that inflation works. And all 3 of them, they describe things pretty good. None of them are perfect, but they do a good job. So the first one, and the one that most people probably understand, is supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a lot of something and people, have we'll say a medium amount of demand about it, then the price is going to go down. As you make more and more of it, the price goes down. Actually, so quantity goes up, supply goes up, the price will go down. If you have something and people don't really want it a lot, it's like not a hot item anymore. So
fidget spinners.
Yeah, fidget spinners. So for a while, there was a big demand for fidget spinners. Yeah, now not so much. And it was sort of a fad that passed. Higher demand means that prices go up. And so you have these curves. They're usually curves. This one's a straight line. But it's basically the same idea. If you have a large quantity of something, its price will usually go down because there's just more of it that's available. If you have something that is in limited supply, the price goes up. And it's the same thing with demand. If you have something that is in high demand, it's a hot item. So the Power Man toys from Jingle All the Way.
Turbo Man.
Turbo Man toys from Jingle All the Way.
I remember everything.
Yes. So him and Booster. Here,
that is the best example of supply and demand anyone has ever thought of.
Okay. So Turbo Man and Booster.
Wait, they actually sell that?
No.
I just saw someone said something like that on eBay, and I was like...
You know what? They might have actually done that. That would be strange to me. So Turbo Man is in very high demand. So the price has gone up so much that they're willing to pay double because everybody wants one and the supply has remained static. High demand. Booster, his buddy that no one likes, they are practically trying to give those away and no one will take them because the demand is low. Right? So supply and demand. Turbo Man is in high demand. Booster is in low demand. So can't give Booster away. Turbo Man, people are robbing each other's houses. They're getting in fights for him. They're paying double. They're shaking down old ladies in the street. Right?
Yes.
Supply and demand. Now, right now in our country, we have both.
Wait, what?
We have, because of some errors in judgment, we'll say, we have low supply and high demand.
That kind of sucks.
So, we have...
Oh, yeah, with that reminds me, like, Dillo's toy thing she was talking about. She wanted like this one LOL toy.
Oh, yeah. So we had this thing.
COVID.
And so the government did two things. One is, so this place called the Federal Reserve, we kind of talked about them a little bit. They're sort of the control of monetary policy. They set the interest rates really low. And basically what that means is when the interest rates are low, it is less expensive to get a loan, which encourages people and businesses to go out and get a loan, and they get more money to spend. It helps stimulate the economy.
Especially if we're all staying indoors and tolerating our family members.
The other thing that happened is, since people were staying, and in a way I agree with it, because people were forced to stay in their homes a lot of times by government action. I felt that it was necessary for the government to compensate them. But they basically took money, put it in envelopes, and mailed it to all the homes in the United States.
Imagine if you accidentally get a check for someone else.
It happened. And sometimes not by accident. They purposely defrauded people to try and get more COVID money. But that's a video for another day. So this process in the economic literature is sometimes called helicopter money, because it is the monetary policy equivalent of flying around in a helicopter and throwing money out the door. So they call it helicopter money.
That's the best drawing you've done so far.
Well, thank you. So what happens when we have all these people and they have money because the government sent them a check, and they have money because the interest rates were low. Maybe they refinanced the mortgage on their house, or they took out a loan as part of their business. They have all this money in their pockets. What's they going to go do?
Buy things.
They go and they spends it, right?
They buy things.
So that's my cash register. Cha-ching. Thunder money ball. They go spend a bunch of money. So another way to think about this is it is stimulating demand, or what they'll sometimes call excess demand. So the demand goes up because people have all this extra money that they didn't have. Another thing that we have, you've heard the story of all of the shipping boats. They're all trapped out in the ocean.
Yeah, that was what I was talking about with Delos.
Oh yeah, right. So this is my favorite if we can find it. Because Black Friday pirates.
Memes.
I don't see it, but the idea is that for Black Friday, since everything was in big shipping containers on ships anchored off the ports,
that pirates would just roll out there and
yeah, your Black Friday shopping would be hopping on a pirate ship and going out and robbing all these shipping vessels.
I mean, that's one way to spend your Saturday.
So they
Be interesting,
because all of the people out of work, and because the lockdowns suppressed demand, we have this break in the supply chains. There's just not enough stuff around, and it's really hard to get the stuff from the factories where it's made to the stores where it's sold. It's just super hard. They don't have enough people on the ships. They don't have enough people that have come back to work in the ports. They don't have enough people that are driving trucks anymore. A lot of the people that are driving trucks, they sort of left the industry, and so it's just hard. And so we have, I think I got rid of my supply. Oh, there's my supply and demand. So our supply and demand, we're way up here on both of them. We have, or maybe we're down here. We're sort of up here. We have very high demand because everybody got a bunch of money from the government, and we have reduced supply because the supply chain was disrupted by the pandemic, and all these people haven't gone back to work. So that's one explanation for why things are more expensive. So that's the first one. Does all that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
We get into the psychology part now.
The second one, so Keynes on their triangle, so they have supply, or I'm sorry, no, they have demand. Dang it. They have demand, cost, and I call it psychology. They got different names for it. So the demand is still the demand, right? People want to go out and they want to buy things. And so when a bunch of people want to buy things, the prices go up.
Like when Aubrey gets $1.
She just wants to spend it
Yeah.
as soon as she gets it, yes. So cost is similar to supply, but is inclusive of other things that are also going wrong right now. So perhaps you've noticed gas prices high.
Yeah, I've noticed.
Right? So part of that is because production went down during the pandemic. The other part of it is that we have had government policies to do things like shut down pipelines that we used to have running.
We are in Oklahoma. We've heard all about that.
Yes. It's a big deal whenever they mess with the oil industry. So the supply of oil that we have available turned into gasoline has gone down. The other thing is, you've probably seen all of the now hiring, need work signs out whenever we're around.
I've seen some of those in like fast food places,
Okay.
but for all fairness, they have those up a lot.
Yeah, and do you remember the day when basically Taco Mayo was shut down because they didn't have enough workers?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That was a bad day
They-
because y'all wanted Taco Mayo.
That
and they
was Aubrey. Aubrey's always so strict with the food.
Well, so a lot of workers have basically left the workforce because of the pandemic, and they're not coming back.
Why?
Some of it's because they're still afraid of the pandemic. Some of it's because, depending on where they are. So for a long time, government unemployment was paying more than a job paid.
Wait, people got paid more to do nothing than to actually get a job?
Yes, they did.
That kind of defeats the point.
My tax dollars at work. You're welcome. One day they'll be your tax dollars.
Ah.
So,
Well, they were at Red River.
yeah, I remember that story. Anyway, so businesses are having a hard time finding people because some of them left because of the pandemic. They're still scared of the pandemic, and so they're not joining the workforce, or they're getting paid more to stay at home from government programs, or they just decided that their job sucked. And since they got an excuse to leave their job, they're looking for other kind of work, like a different career. And so they're not coming back to work.
That one makes a little more sense.
Well, what's happening in this case is that the wages, so the price that companies have to pay to hire their employees, has gone up. And so that's sort of where this cost element works, is the fuel is more expensive. And so it just costs more money to ship a Clue board game from the factory to the store. And so the price has to go up because the price of fuel has gone up.
They have to pay gas money.
We have to pay gas money. And the price of this tablecloth has gone up because the tablecloth factory is understaffed and they're having to pay more in wages. And so they have to raise the price of the tablecloth to pay people to come and actually have enough workers to do the stuff. And so as these costs increase, that gets passed on to consumers and prices. All that makes sense?
Scratchy throats today.
Yeah, well, allergies.
Yeah.
So now we get to the psychology. All right. So, and what that has to do with is the way people change their behavior based on all of these things. And so one of the things you'll see in the literature is this thing called inflation expectations. I butchered that. Expectation. Crap. Inflation expectations.
You are not.
I'm not skilled. So basically what that means is that when the prices start going up and everybody expects the prices to go up, then they start engaging in behaviors under the expectation that the price is going to go up. So part of that is the wage story that we just told in the other one whenever we were talking about the cost.
Yeah.
So I said, your mom and I needed a 10% increase, right, in our pay to cover the inflation on McDonald's breakfast.
Yeah.
Right? And we didn't get that. So, in our kind of work, it's not necessarily a thing where you get to go to your boss and you get to negotiate a lot, but there are people, they'll go to their boss and they'll say, hey, if I can't get a raise, I'm going to start looking for work somewhere else.
That's not negotiation, that's a threat.
Well, in this environment...
It is Fifth Element negotiating.
In an environment where businesses are struggling to retain workers and they're struggling to hire new workers, like that becomes important. And you can say to them, look, I need more money.
Money,
because,
please.
Well, and so that drives the costs up, right? We talked about cost, right? So whenever a bunch of people go in and they say, hey, I need my pay raise, that means the cost goes up. And then that in turn makes the inflation go up because the company now has to raise their prices to deal with all of their employees saying, hey, I need a raise.
This is a vicious cycle.
Yes. Or what happens is these people will quit and they'll go get a job somewhere else where they can get a pay raise. And so now the company's having to pay more and more money to recruit replacements for these people who have quit. And the quits rate is very high right now. So people are resigning their position, they're leaving their jobs because they're looking for higher pay at a very high rate right now.
People are wondering why we started using robots.
Well, that's one of the things that happens. So, yeah, whenever the fast food workers start asking for $15 an hour to flip burgers, you know what one of the next stories was? Somebody invented a burger flipping robot. Yeah. So, that's a whole nother video. One of the other things that will happen is you will get hoarding. So you remember when all of the toilet paper was, like it was hard to find toilet paper in the stores?
Yeah, that was a little funny.
Yeah, so there was a couple reasons why the toilet paper...
Line is drawn at hoarding bacon, though. The line is drawn there.
So, there's a lot of different reasons why that happened, and it wasn't all down to behavior. It had to do with people not going to work and supply chains and things like that. But whenever it became a shortage, whenever people would find it, they would buy as much of it as they could, and they would stash it. And, like, I think we still are using toilet paper that your grandparents bought during the pandemic, and they finally, like, passed some of it down to us because they weren't going to use it.
That's our inheritance.
It's your inheritance. It's all these rolls of toilet paper. But that hoarding instinct is a part of psychology, and it's not just about supply, limited supply. It can also be affected by price. So if I go to the store and I have something that's non-perishable, right? So maybe it's canned vegetables, toilet paper,
Halloween candy. That stuff never goes bad.
Halloween candy. If you had a place to store it, people would hoard gasoline.
That would be an interesting story.
No, if you have a tank to keep it. So what happens is if you think that the price is going to keep going up, it's cheaper to get as much as you can today before the price goes up tomorrow. And so if you find enough supply of it, you'll buy all that's available. It's what I did with the little shower things. You probably didn't hear that story. So when we all kind of had the cold and the allergy going at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And we were putting those little
the
little tablets in the shower.
Yeah.
That made the vapor help clear out your sinuses. Yeah, one day I went to the store. I bought all of them.
Why?
Because we were using them, and I wanted to just get all of them. And then your mom told Rebecca about it because one of her kids had congestion, and she was like, yeah, I went to the store and there were 0. And it was like, yeah, because
I bought them all.
I bought them all.
Well, there was only like 3.
There were several. Whenever you get an environment where there's these high inflation activities, you get high inflation expectations, people will engage in that kind of behavior. They'll go and they'll hoard stuff. And the hoarding helps create supply shortages, which feeds into more inflation.
You know what? We should all just go on a fast or something. This is a vicious cycle.
It's very difficult to break once it gets going because people start behaving like prices are going to keep going up quickly and indefinitely, and so they start doing stuff like that.
But the thing is, if you think the prices are going to go up, then you start doing this. You're just making the prices go up.
Well, yeah, but people need their stuff. I mean, like, it's super hard to break out of. That's why they fight so hard to keep inflation low.
Dang.
You will also change your investment behaviors. Because, so, whenever you get in an inflationary environment, so like right now, the interest rates on loans are low. And so what that means is that people, because there's a lot of excess money, if I'm going to invest it, I'm not going to invest it in a bond. A bond is basically like a piece of a loan.
So just like a piece of a loan instead of an entire loan?
Kind of, for the most part.
Yeah, I get it.
Because the percentage it's going to pay is low. I'm going to get really low interest. And if I need income off of my investments, then I'm going to want to get other stuff. And so that's when we get into... so people will invest more in stocks, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But then they will also get into things like art. So art gets really inflationary, or whenever there's inflation, like art gets really expensive because people have lots of money laying around and they're looking for something that they think is going to appreciate in value. And so they go buy art. And so art starts getting really expensive.
You could get art from me or Aubrey, depending on what kind you want. Do you want the child aesthetic, or do you want the moody teenager aesthetic?
Yeah. Signed by the author. They'll be worth more when y'all are dead. So real estate gets more expensive. Now they have these things called NFTs, which stands for non-fungible token. It's basically a digital...
Bitcoin.
So Bitcoins are technically supposed to be fungible. That means that one Bitcoin is exactly what any other one is. An NFT is like a proof of a certificate of ownership for some thing. So like, let's say you went out and you created like this really, really great meme. Like something that you put on the internet and everybody loved it and got passed around. You could create an NFT, say like 10 of them, and say, I have 10 of these proofs of ownership that say you own this meme that I've created. Because in reality, it's digital. People can copy it, people can share it, they can splash it all over the universe. It's impossible to, quote unquote, own it in a way that you can deny ownership to everyone. But this NFT allows you to sort of create it, and it's a way of saying, look, I'm the original owner, this is your proof of ownership, and then you could sell them for money so that people could own a little piece of digital certificate of ownership for your meme that you made.
I could basically sell a digital certificate that tells them they own a meme.
Yes.
That feels like a scam.
Some people think it is. It remains to be seen how well this is going to work out. So right now, all of this stuff shooting way up because there's lots of excess money, and because the interest rates are low, instead of it flowing into loans and bonds, which are safe, it's flowing into these high-risk, ephemeral, sort of weird assets.
All of these I understand, except for kind of art. I don't know. It's probably just because we have art. It's just kind of mom bought it and it's in the house now.
Yeah. Anyway, these are called bubbles, right? Or asset bubble to be specific. That means that these items are increasing, and the price of them is increased outside of their intrinsic value. And all of this is a result of that psychology leg of that triangle. people are behaving different because you're in an environment where prices are going up, there's a bunch of money available, interest rates on loans are really low, and so this money is just going into really strange places. And it's all a result of that psychology thing.
At least people are appreciating art now.
Yeah. Only for what it sells for. They don't care if it looks good or not. Anyway, so do you understand that? Sort of the triangle. Those three pieces working together. All right. Now we get into the one, monetarist.
The money thing?
Yes.
That's
money.
monsterist. Dad?
What? Oh, no, that's monsterism, isn't it?
Yeah. Could you not close your tabs?
No, I do not. Okay. So we'll skip it.
Is Wikipedia asking you for money?
Yes.
Yeah.
Monetarist.
That's how you spell it. I'm just gonna copy paste it.
Monetarist. It equals money. According to this view, inflation is solely a function of the amount of money that there is in the system. So, whenever there's more money, it's called expansion. Whenever there's less, it's contractionary. Monetary expansion, highly correlated with inflation. Also, still kind of a necessary thing. So, we're going to do a little bit of a thought game here for a second.
Yeah.
Let's pretend you got you and there's a total of 10 students. Your students from school are in a class. Every week in class, you get 2 coupons for a free ice cream. All right. So everybody, all 10 of you get 2 coupons. So you've got these coupons for ice cream. And because some people like ice cream more than others, a little economy develops. Like, maybe.
I get it. Coupon selling.
Yeah, so maybe someone says, hey, I like that picture you're drawing. If you draw a picture of Venom for me, I'll give you one of my ice creams. Or
I've seen really good art of Venom that you could really sell that stuff.
Yeah. Maybe somebody's having problems with their homework and they say, hey, if you'll help me with my homework, I'll pay you an ice cream coupon for it. Maybe somebody decides they're going to start bringing pops to the class, and because they like ice cream and there's a few people that like pops more than ice cream, they'll trade you a pop for an ice cream coupon. You got a little economy going on, right? Nice. Does all that make sense?
Yeah.
What happens if we stick 5 more students in the class, but we don't give them any coupons?
Well, they're either going to have to do the soda thing and adapt to the economy, or they're just going to exist in that room.
Well, so what happens is, so the supply and demand works for money as well. So now you've got 5 students in there. They want ice cream coupons, right? The demand for ice cream coupons has gone up.
Oh, I see.
But the supply has remained the same. So the value of the ice cream coupon goes up. So one of your new students may say, hey, I'll do you 2 pictures instead of 1 so that I can get 1 ice cream coupon, because they want ice cream coupons.
Yeah.
Right? And so
that competition.
Well, technically this is we've created a deflationary scenario, because now there's more demand for the money, and so the people who want the money, that ice cream coupon can now literally purchase more paper, labor, soda pops, whatever, because more people want to get it so that they can participate in the economy.
Oh, I see.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's not necessarily a good thing. What would be a better thing is if we added those 5 students and we just gave them 2 coupons like everybody else. That is technically monetary expansion. But we've expanded it in a way where it should be about the same supply and demand for money. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's still going to be inflation. Because now that you have... So there's still likely going to be inflation. Because now, if you've got someone with pop, they're selling pop, you've got, I guess it'd be, instead of 9 potential customers, now you've got 14 potential customers. And so somebody may start willing to pay more coupons for the pop because now there's more demand for the pop, right?
Yeah.
And so that's going to be an inflationary environment outside of some kind of other action, which maybe somebody says, hey, you know what? I'll start bringing pop too. Because if they're going to charge 2 coupons, I'll just charge 1 like he was before. And then the price is going to stabilize. But, but that scenario, the prices should be more stable than if we just added 5 students and we didn't give them any coupons. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We're
trying to get a stable supply and demand.
Right. So what we've done in response to the pandemic is we've, instead of okay, so let me rewind a little bit because this is important. Currently, the human population is growing, right?
Yeah.
And so to keep your economy relatively stable, your prices relatively stable, you want to have some kind of monetary expansion, or else you run into a problem as the population grows. That's when you get 5 students that come into your classroom, but we're not giving them any tickets. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you want a little bit of expansion to keep up with your population growth. If you do it right, you can still have deflation in the system from things like productivity growth. So consumer electronics, like TVs, VCRs, computers, phones, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Highly deflationary. The products keep getting better and better, and in general, the prices get lower and lower.
Bro, some of my classmates probably don't even know what a VCR is.
Well, no, I am old. But, so consumer electronics, the price goes down, but the price isn't going down because the supply and demand are changing. They're going down because of productivity growth. The cost part of that triangle is getting really low, right?
Because they're coming out with new things.
As the technology improves, they're just able to produce better things at a better price.
Got more flip phones. It's folding smartphone.
Right. So that's good. And that can exist in an environment where you keep the prices stable. And that's the kind of thing you want, is you want the monetary supply to expand in a reasonable way according to its demand so that the economy doesn't get any friction or any weird sort of clogs in it from there being a really high demand for money that isn't available. Because what happens then is you want to make purchases, you want to make transactions, but if you don't have enough money in your hands to facilitate the transactions, you're essentially not engaging in the economic activity. And so there's economic activity that sort of gets left on the table because there just isn't enough money in people's hands to make the transactions. So you want enough money so that you don't have any friction like that, but the prices are stable enough that if you have productivity growth, the prices are allowed to go down. So what we've done is we've gone and we've got a classroom with 10 students, and before the pandemic, you were each getting 2 ice cream coupons, and then we just decided to give you 5 every week. Right, just dumped a ton of money into the system. And so what happens now if you've got 5 coupons?
Me or just in general? Me.
Just average human.
Average human?
Spend. Right? And so now you go to that person with the pop and they say,
Take.
Well, they're like, hey, I've got 1 pop left and you've got 3 people. What happened? Well, I'll give you 2 tickets. No, I'll give you 3 tickets. I'll give you 4 tickets, right? The price starts shooting up because there's just more money in the hand. That money goes somewhere, right? Whenever you stick it into people's hands. So when the monetary supply expands and it gets into people's hand, they go spend it. It has to go somewhere. It doesn't just sit.
Well, it has to go somewhere eventually.
So, all three of those things are happening right now. We have increased demand because we put a bunch of money into people's hands. We have reduced supply because of supply chain issues. We have increased cost because of policies that have made the price of gas go up, that have made workers harder to find, and we've expanded the monetary supply, so there's just tons of more money floating around in the system. And that's
2022 is going to go off to a great start.
Well, that is why we have inflation right now, and that is why it's been going up so fast, is because you have all of those different things going on all at the same time.
It's like you're in the McDonald's drive-thru and then you blink and then the prices just went up.
It's not quite bad yet. That is a condition known as hyperinflation.
Oh, that's going.
And that's super bad. But we haven't got there yet. Yet. So, do you have any other questions?
No.
All right. So, which one of those theories do you like the best?
Which one of these theories?
Yeah, which one do you think does the best explanation?
The best explanation for the inflation thing? Mm-hmm. I kind of like the psychology one because it does kind of... The way people think and change their spending habits does kind of...
That's part of it. So
they're all part of it, so together they're kind of the best theory since all three of them have good arguments and they all kind of work with each other. But my favorite's probably the psychology one.
Well, there is something to like about the triangle. So the psychology isn't independent. It's part of the triangle.
Yeah, the triangle itself is pretty good.
So we have demand, which is similar to supply and demand, and cost, which is similar to the supply part of the supply and demand, but includes just things like rising raw material, and then the psychology part, which is people behavior. So, answered your question?
Yeah.
All right.
Which one's your favorite?
Ooh, I'm a little bit of a monetarist. Like, money explains a lot of stuff.
Oh, that's
in
what
this
we were
particular
talking about.
case, all of them really work well, and I think in this particular time, they all play a part of it. I mean, like, you can find evidence of all three of them. There is something to say about the way money sort of affects things, because you can... it's sort of a lever that you can use to bend any of these other three if you want to. You just have to use it smartly. So I like that one a lot. So if you liked this video, we did do one on bank runs, which was inspired by a scene from when we were watching It's a Wonderful Life. You'll probably like that one.
Yes.
We did a video on the GameStop short squeeze, which is kind of a deep financial one.
That one was fun.
So, and we've got some other ones. Try and check it out. And what do we say to the people at the end of all the videos?
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. All right. Good job.